Hello, guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of the WeSportin Podcast. I'm Nico, and I'm here with Drew Westland, part of Just Talking About Sports. Drew, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, bud?
I'm doing fantastic. And today we're going to be talking about the NFC Wild Card matchups this weekend. A lot of big surprises in the playoffs. Could you say that, Drew, or nah?
Oh, dude, I can most definitely say that. Washington getting in at 7-9. Dude, Chicago getting in at 8-8.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, there are 14 teams in the playoffs, so there were bound to be some surprises.
Yeah, I mean, with the new addition of the playoff spot, we did see a lot of teams in the playoffs that should have made it, who should have not made it. I personally believe that the Cardinals should have made it over Chicago, but, they're in the playoffs, so I guess.
I mean, hey, Chicago won the games that mattered and the Cardinals didn't, but
I think Chicago's
neither here nor there.
I think Chicago's the first team I've ever seen lose the final game of the season, and then they still made it in. I'll never forget that. That just amazes me.
I mean, hey, they're in now. It doesn't matter how you do it. All that matters is that you get in the dance. And, hey, Chicago's there, and they're taking on the New Orleans Saints in the wild card matchup. Very
true. Now, let's go through the game real quick. So we're going to break down the game real quick. So obviously, Drew Brees coming back. That's a good thing for the Saints. They needed Drew Brees to come back and run that offense because under Taysom Hill, like I said, Taysom Hill's really, he's a good quarterback. But if we're talking Chicago and we're talking playoffs, we're really looking at some really serious problems if Drew Brees does not perform.
Well, I mean, yeah, Drew Brees and Taysom Hill, they both bring different things to the table. Drew Brees, we know he's turning 42 pretty soon. Taysom Hill, he's more of a mobile guy. He's sort of that gadget player for the Saints, And with Drew Brees still under center, yeah, they'll still use some Taysom Hill, which I believe Taysom Hill is the true X factor in the New Orleans offense. And, I mean, I think that Chicago's defense really has to step up against New Orleans. I mean, they're playing in the Superdome, so it's not like the elements will be a factor. But I really just think that Chicago, in order to be successful, has to really step up and stop this New Orleans Saints offense because when their attack is rolling with Alvin Kamara, who could potentially return on Sunday, when they get their guys rolling with Michael Thomas coming back from IR, that offense could be dangerous. And, if the Chicago Bears aren't careful, this game could get out of hand very quickly.
Yeah. So, at the top right here, I'm going to list the things kind of like what the Bears shouldn't do against the Saints, what the Bears should do against the Saints. One thing I do believe that the Bears should not do against the Saints is I do not believe they should blitz. They should take out blitzing completely. You're playing someone like Drew Brees. Yeah, Kamara's a running back, but Alvin Kamara this season has had over 932 yards, 16 touchdowns, which is pretty good for a running back. Let's not degrade that, but it's more about the receiving yards. You get Kamara on a flat, you don't got anyone guarding him, that's the big trouble they're going to have to worry about. And potentially speaking, their defense. And I do believe that's one of their biggest problems, I do believe, is their defense.
Well, hold on, Nico. Before you go on about the defense, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think the Bears really should blitz. I'm under the impression that Drew Brees is 42 years old. Age is a factor. He was never really a mobile quarterback. And now, even now in his old age, he can't move around like he used to. So I feel like where the Bears are going to be really successful is if you put Khalil Mack on the outside on a blitz, Akeem Hicks up the middle, you got your linebackers, you got whoever blitzing. If you put pressure on Drew Brees and you force him to get rid of the ball quickly, and then you force him to make mistakes in the passing game and you capitalize on that. And you brought up a good point. Alvin Kamara, they like to run a lot of screen plays. They like to run a lot of things in the flat, dump it off to him. But that's why you get somebody in coverage and make sure you have somebody on him. So if he does catch the ball on the flat, he's really dangerous after the catch. So what you can only hope to do is try to limit that. But no, I really think that the Bears defense will be more successful if you put pressure on Brees, because if he has all day, he's been burning coverages for years, right? Like 20 plus years, longer than we've been alive. So if you give Brees time, I feel like that is just a recipe for disaster for the Bears.
Yes, and I do agree with you. But now my question here is, you got Kyle Fuller, who's had an exceptional year, great year as he always does. You got him on Michael Thomas. You got Mac blitzing. You're gonna have Raekwon and Trevathan going on to either Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith. Who do you got guarding Kamara? I mean, who is Kamara's biggest threat on that defense?
See, now that's what Chuck Pagano has. That's the real challenge that he has to figure out, because I don't know if you can put a linebacker on him because Alvin Kamara will outrun him every time. But then again, if you put a corner on him, then that takes away from like Emmanuel Sanders or Traquan Smith or Jared Cook over the middle. So Alvin Kamara really is an exceptional weapon. But here's the thing. He is eligible to return, which the Saints really got lucky in schedule making because he had COVID. And with that Sunday afternoon game time, he's now eligible to return. But what happens if he doesn't? You know, like that's the real question mark. And that's what the Saints have to game plan for, you know. Like they'll have Latavius Murray back if Murray continues to test negative. But I think the Saints and Sean Payton will be game planning for with or without Kamara. And if I'm the Bears, I'm really hoping that Kamara sits.
Yeah, that's very true. But now let's look at who's on that Bears defense. Obviously, on that Bears defense, not a defense to be sleeping on. No one should ever
absolutely not
the defense of the Bears. Now we got people. Now one of the biggest young studs I have seen on that Bears defense, and I think a lot of other people seen it, but I want to be the one to say it. Of course, Jalen Johnson impressed me the most all year long. He has filled in that spot for when they had who was their corner? Prince Amukar. Am I saying it right? Amukamara, yes. They had
Prince Amukamara.
Yeah, and when they had him, you know, he was a stud. But I think Jalen Johnson's more versatile than Prince because you have to remember, when they brought in Prince, he was really old. He was old. He was getting into that prime. He was around 30, 31. So you're bringing in someone like Jalen Johnson from the draft who's been outstanding. Me personally, I think he can guard someone like an Emmanuel Sanders. He switch on to Michael Thomas. He can possibly guard Kamara in the flats. But that is now, do you trust a rookie on Alvin Kamara, though? I think that's the big question the Bears need to look at. Do you trust Jalen Johnson? Do you trust Buster Skrine? Do you trust those types of corners to guard?
Well, I mean, that's if Jalen Johnson and Buster Skrine play, because both of them were held out in that Week 17 matchup against Green Bay. They were both on the injury report. So you had young undrafted rookies, and then there's Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller did a good job in the Green Bay game, but you had I forget who it is, but I know he was like a young late round draft pick rookie guarding Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard and Marcus. And like it just wasn't a wrestle. Like it didn't work. The Packers hung 35 on him.
Yeah, MVC Lazard had a field day.
But like that's the thing, you know. Like if they play, I feel like Jalen Johnson can step up to the task of occasionally guarding a Michael Thomas and his main assignment being an Emmanuel Sanders. Jalen Johnson has been a real bright spot in a defense that has kind of faltered over the past couple weeks. You know, like Jalen Johnson has been a real welcome surprise for that secondary, especially when you got like Eddie Jackson and Tashawn Gibson as safeties roaming around. It really takes a lot of pressure off when you have Kyle Fuller, who's a Pro Bowl cornerback, you know, like, and Jalen Johnson on the other side locking down the receivers. It really makes the defense's life a lot easier. But, you know, I do think the challenge is on the Bears defense to slow and stop that Saints offense, which I don't know if they can do. But on the flip side, say the Saints hang 14-21 on the Bears defense really quickly. Do you trust Mitchell Trubisky to like dig them out of the hole?
Now, here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this because I think I said this to you a couple weeks ago when we were speaking about Mitchell Trubisky and how the Bears offense is. The Bears offense, let's not be mistaken. That's been the craziest offense all year, and I say that above the NFC East's offensive people that play for them. Now, you got a team on the offensive side, went through two quarterbacks, one Super Bowl MVP caliber in Nick Foles, who got traded from Jacksonville to Chicago. Many people were like wondering, oh, Foles, oh, Trubisky, who are we going to start? Now, Trubisky as a starter at the beginning of the season went 3-0. He was benched in the Atlanta game when they were down. Nick Foles came and brought them back, and that is when apparently the Chicago's eyes were open. Now, let's not disregard the play of Nick Foles, though. Nick Foles did beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I believe to be a very impressive win due to all the hype that is there.
Okay, but their quarterback didn't know what down it was. How impressive was it? Tampa Bay didn't beating Tampa Bay week 6 is different than beating Tampa Bay week 16. Like this, and we'll cover Tampa Bay in a little bit, yes. But I think the Bears really found, like, they really started to click at the end. Like, yeah, they had some easy matchups, but they put up 30+ in 4 straight weeks for the first time since 1965. Like, regardless, that's impressive. But, do I think that the Bears offense can really be able to handle the Saints defense? And the Saints defense is, like, the Saints have the better defense in this matchup, like, statistically. Like, where you have, Trey Hendrickson, Cam Jordan, putting pressure on Mitchell Trubisky. You got guys like Marshawn Lattimore, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Malcolm Jenkins in the secondary that are just absolute ball hawks and looking for turnovers. And, I mean, I don't think that the Bears defense – or the Bears offense, can hold up against the Saints defense. So, you know what? In this game, I think I'm going to take New Orleans to win this one.
Yep, and right you are. I'm going to have to go with that as well. I'm going to have to go with the New Orleans Saints as well. I do believe that the Bears are a very good team. They're in the playoffs, so I'm not going to degrade them being 8-8. I'm going to just say, though, if the Bears don't get that offense moving and they just get 5-10 yards every drive and they don't get any scoring, they're going to have a lot of issues going up against the New Orleans Saints, who are red hot.
Couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah.
So, you want to move on? Let's go Los Angeles versus Seattle, shall we?
Yes, we shall. Yes, we shall. That game, to me personally, I cannot wait for that game. That is going to be a battle of the NFC West right there. Now, a lot of times you really don't see these. You don't really see a lot of teams meet in the same division, and then they meet each other in the playoffs, playing each other now 3 times a year. But before Jared Goff went down, I would say, hey, I can't wait to see this game offensively. It was going to be a shootout. We know Jared Goff can play in big games. Jared Goff is a big-time performer. I'm not saying that Jared Goff is a mediocre quarterback or anything like that, but I'm saying in big moments, you see Jared Goff play. You see him do well. You see him play in the playoffs. You see him play at any time. Any big scenario, I love Jared Goff in big scenarios. Now, as a game-to-game quarterback, though, there are some mediocre games that they've played this season. I don't like them. But since we're not talking about Jared Goff anymore, because Jared Goff is officially out for that game with a thumb injury, had to get surgery on it, prayers sent up. But let's talk about the quarterback that's playing right now, though. Drew, if you want to take it away with the quarterback.
John Wolford.
John Wolford. Tell us about John Wolford.
I'll take it away with the quarterback for the Rams. I'll tell us about John Wolford, a guy with a very extensive and clean LinkedIn profile, actually. It's very impressive. I believe he came over from the AAF. Mm-hmm. I think he was the quarterback of the Arizona Hotshots. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
John Wolford got the start in place of Jared Goff last week in a must-win game, Week 17 against the Arizona Cardinals. And John Wolford had some mistakes early on in that game. But after an interception that was kind of bad, first NFL game jitters, but he really turned it around, and he guided the Rams to an 18-7 victory and a playoff berth. The team really rallied around John Wolford, and I feel like the thing about that game is I feel like whoever starts at quarterback, I really don't think it'll matter for the Rams, just because, I don't know if Jared Goff has officially been ruled out, but it's hard to return from a surgery on the thumb of your throwing hand. It is that is a quarterback's lifeline. You kind of need your thumb to throw a good football. But with the way the LA Rams defense has been playing, I don't think it matters who starts at quarterback, because that defense has been playing about as good a football as any defense in the league. One can make the argument that top to bottom, they're the best defense in the league. And statistically, they rank top 5 in most major categories. You got guys like Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, both have 10+ sacks on the year. Michael Brockers, who can put pressure on quarterbacks, and I think can really put pressure on Russell Wilson, considering that he doesn't have much of an O-line. And then you got guys in the secondary, such as Jalen Ramsey, Darius Williams, Troy Hill, Johnson, one of the most well-rounded secondaries that can give problems to guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you said earlier, early in the season, you would think that this would be an offensive battle. This would be a shootout. Mm-hmm. The narrative has been switched for both of these teams in the second half, where both of their defenses have really stepped up, especially Seattle. So I believe this game is going to be a defensive battle. Mm-hmm. But honestly, if the Rams can get their running game going, I feel like that'll open a lot of things up for Goff and or Wolford. And I feel like the Los Angeles Rams have a chance to shock the Seattle Seahawks and move on here.
All right, so Drew, who are you going to take before I say my part? Who are you going to take for this game?
I'm taking the Rams. I'm taking the upset here.
Taking the upset? Okay, well, let me get into this real quick. So you did talk about the Rams. I'm going to talk about Seattle. Seattle Seahawks have been really good in the last 5 games, winning 4 out of the last 5. They've stepped up in the matchups that they've needed to. I believe their biggest thing this whole season, though, and I can't believe I'm even going to say this, but I'm going to be completely honest. I know a lot of Seattle fans hate that defensive coordinator, but I'm not going to lie to you. Getting Carlos Dunlap was one of the biggest things that they needed. They needed a guy to bring pressure. They needed a guy to stop the run. They got them, and they got him for very cheap, too, very cheap. And
I think it was like a 7th-round pick because Carlos Dunlap wanted out of Cincinnati.
Yes, he did. He hated Cincinnati. Now, here's the thing, though. I love their defense. Jamal Adams has been a stud this year. That defense has really stepped up in the second half of the season. But not enough with the defense. I do want to talk about the offense, though. I love Russell Wilson. I'm a big Russell Wilson guy. I do believe he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But now where does this come down to? It comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to Russell Wilson's turnover ratio and if he can control that against this defense. Now, he's going up against guys like Jalen Ramsey, like you said, Williams, Hill. He's going up to John Johnson. I mean, he has a very, very hard matchup this Sunday. And so does DK Metcalf. Now and I believe this game will prove what kind of a player DK Metcalf really is. You got DK Metcalf in a big, big moment here. They're in the playoffs, finished the season going 12-4. I mean, they've been great, and we saw how DK Metcalf's been. DK Metcalf arguably could be top 10. Arguably could be top 10. But now, enough about that.
I think it's fair to say he's a top 10 wide receiver in this league. I think that's fair to say.
It's fair to say he's earned it. He's earned it. But now what my biggest thing is as well, I know you can throw the ball a bunch, but we need to talk about that run game for the Seattle Seahawks. We got to talk about Chris Carson. They just got Penny back a couple of weeks ago. How do you think Chris Carson fares out in this game? You know, he gets a little overshadowed with DK, with Lockett, Wilson, and Chris Carson. Let's not disregard. He's a very good running back, top 10 before the season started. Now he's been a little rocky. 141 carries, 681 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So, Drew, how do you think Chris Carson will play a factor this Sunday?
Well, here's the thing about not just Chris Carson, but Seattle's offense in general. Their offensive philosophy has really switched over the course of the season. At the beginning of the season, they were under the mantra, let Russ cook, where, you know, they were a real pass-heavy offense, where Russell Wilson would get the ball to the outside to guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But then in the middle of the season, when their defense stepped up and their offense faltered, and Russell Wilson got a little careless with the ball, and he has, I believe, 13 interceptions, which not great. He's going to have to watch the turnovers against a Rams secondary that they're a bunch of ball hawks. If you make a bad pass or a wayward pass, they'll make you pay. But in the middle of the season, they really transitioned back to their true identity, which was a run-first offense with Chris Carson. You know, set it up, maybe get Carlos Hyde involved. Like you said, they just got Rashad Penny back, and then throw the ball. So I really think that, you know, well, no matter what offensive philosophy they go to, this LA defense is good enough to where, you know, they can give any offense problems, you know. So I feel like this is going to be a real defensive battle. Like we saw the last time the Rams and the Seahawks met up. It was a really, really close game until, you know, Seattle pulled away at the end. So I feel like we're going to see something very, very similar to that game here this weekend.
Very true. And with my pick, of course, me and Drew, we'll never see eye to eye. He could tell you that. I'm going to have to take the Seattle Seahawks here. They're highly favored, man. And you can never really disregard the Seahawks in any situation. They're a playoff team. I've never seen Seattle really have a big playoff failure since Wilson threw it to Mr. Malcolm Butler in the end zone of Super Bowl. I believe it was Super Bowl 49.
Whoa. Hey, you're going to give Seahawk fans PTSD, please. Let's spare the Seahawk fans here, all right? And with that, let's move on to the final wild card matchup of this weekend, which I know you are absolutely dying to talk about, which is why we saved the best for last.
Yes, we did.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Washington football team, Nico. And I'll introduce this one because I know the people out there who don't know, you know, by Nico's ear-to-ear grin. He is a huge fan of the Washington football team and has been for quite some time. And I know you're a little uppity on how they're playing right now, but I know this is going to be hard, but try to be as unbiased as possible, please. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right.
How do you think your Washington football team will do in this matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Well, you said I can't be biased, so I'm gonna have to be honest. Well, here's the thing: the Washington football team. Here's the thing: up and down season. No one disregards that at all. You've had quarterbacks like Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins. You've had all three of them come in here, and basically they've all batched up a win together. I don't think neither one of them don't have a win, at least one win. Congratulations though to Alex Smith though coming back though 1,500 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I mean, interceptions over touchdowns, yeah, I get that, but I mean, from what he's been through, man, good stuff for Alex Smith for even being able to play football again. That's one thing I don't think we can disregard. Now, a lot of thing on the upside though is that the Washington football team has had a lot of let me say secret stars that ended up coming out this season on the offense. You have Antonio Gibson, who when he was drafted as a wide receiver actually, and now they switched him over to running back, and we've seen now Antonio Gibson become one of the best young running backs in the league. He's had 170 carries, 795 yards, 11 touchdowns. Some could say for where he was drafted, that's pretty good. I mean, Washington's going to really have to look to Antonio Gibson this Sunday. And a lot of people also don't know as well is J.D. McKissick has been very underrated for Washington this year. Has been getting a lot of the pass catches, a lot of the screen halfback tosses and all that. He's been getting more of the pass catches as Gibson's been taking more of the running back role. McKissick's been more of the pass catcher back, which I believe that's something that Washington really, has something strong. Now we'll move on to wide receivers. They got Terry McLaurin, Steve Sims, Cam Sims. McLaurin this year has been outstanding. I believe he's been outstanding. He's had 87 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he's a little touchdown dependent, which I do believe that played a really big role in Washington this year. But I will say this though, Terry McLaurin does show up for games, and that's the one thing I'll be biased on. He will show up for games, and I will not disregard that at all. Now to move on to the defense. Now, for any of y'all that are wondering, I'm going to be mostly talking about the football team. Drew will get into the reason why Tampa Bay will probably smack the football team, but I'm going to have my moment of why they can have it.
You have your moment. You know what, Nico? Your name redacted / football team, they never really get a chance to make the postseason and play January football. So you know what? I will let you revel in your team's success.
Yes, thank you. So the Washington football team, now we're going to go to the defensive side of it. Most biggest surprise all season long, and I'm even saying that as a fan. I was very surprised by the way that D-line did coming in even week 1, recording 8 sacks, even I believe getting 2 interceptions that week as well against Carson Wentz. But I mean, hey, 8 sacks, 2 interceptions, you can't take that away from regardless of who you're playing. Nope. I do believe though with that front 4 of Chase Young, Jared Allen, Deron Payne, and Ryan Kerrigan, though, and Montez Sweat too. You got guys who I believe is Tom Brady's kryptonite right there. You got guys that can come in there. You blitz Tom Brady, that's going to be Tom Brady's biggest problem. You see teams like New Orleans who have a great D-line. You have the Bears who have a great D-line as well. You see that if you see the pattern of what I'm trying to say here is that Tom Brady, when it comes to D-line and it comes to people blitzing at him off the edge, yeah, you have Tristan Wirfs, Donovan Smith. You have Ryan Jensen. I mean, you got guys there who are great offensive linemen. There's no disregarding that. But what I do believe when it comes down to when they blitz and you have people such as, Chase Young's been outstanding this year. Outstanding. Probably defensive rookie of the year, maybe. And that's just saying the truth.
Probably.
Yeah.
Dude, he will be.
I mean, it's between him and Winfield, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm not even trying to be biased. Him and Antonio Winfield Jr. have been outstanding this year. Oh, my God. Hold on. Drew?
Okay. So
my brother just called me. Hold on.
Oh.
He just hung up. I'll edit that out.
Yeah, you can edit that in post.
I'll edit all this out.
You can keep.
Yeah.
You can keep going.
Okay. Let me just get back to Zoom. I can edit this all out. Anyway, so you got people in the front seven. You got Chase Young, like I said, who's having an outstanding year. You have Ryan Kerrigan, who's more of a veteran player. He's a veteran player who doesn't see a lot of real postseasons. So when he does come to play the postseason, I do believe the last time, though, that the Washington football team or the Redskins, let's say, we'll just keep them both. They're still in Washington. We're the same colors. The last time that they played in a playoff was in 2015 against no one but Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. That was the last time the football team made the playoffs.
You want to remind me how that went, please?
I do remember that game.
You want to remind me how that ended?
Yes, we were up by a lot of points.
You want to remind me how Aaron Rodgers went and smacked the football team? Do you want to remind me of that?
There's a lot of things we can get through today, but I believe we only have so much time on the clock.
Yeah, we do. Which I you've had. I think it's my turn now, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think I'll go and talk about Tampa Bay.
Before you get started on this,
do you want to say one more thing?
Yes, there's like two things I do want to say. One thing I do want to say, though, that's been really impressive is Washington secondary. I do believe they've been most impressive this year. That's where I do believe is the core of that defense has been. You got Kendall Fuller coming back from Kansas City. He actually did originally play in Washington. He left for Kansas City, won himself a ring, and came right back home. He has been outstanding this year, recording 4 interceptions. You got Curl at strong safety, who in my eyes has been way better than Landon Collins have been under us personally. Landon Collins, like I said, no disregard. I'm not saying Landon Collins is trash. I'm not saying Landon Collins isn't good. But Curl, for being a sixth round draft pick, 4 interceptions he's recorded. He's been outstanding.
I think he's had 3 interceptions, but Cameron Curl has been really impressive. For being a 6th round draft, for being a late round draft pick, I think he stepped up in a major way for that defense.
Yeah. So what do you think? If we can, I'm going to listen on here. I want to have my takeaways and your takeaways. What do you think Washington's takeaways on the offensive and defensive side going into this Sunday?
All right. So this matchup, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Washington football team. I think for Washington, where they need to step up is on defense. And I think the key for the Washington football team, you went in and talked about Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Ryan Kerrigan, how good that front 7 is. But the key is they need to get pressure on Tom Brady early and often. That's their key. If they get pressure on Tom Brady and force him to get rid of the ball quickly, they'll be successful. Because Tom Brady in the last couple weeks has really found his stride in Bruce Arians' offense. And that Tampa Bay offense with all their weapons has been explosive, clicking, and dangerous. 40-plus points in back-to-back games, which I don't think we've seen all year. Not even from Kansas City. So Tampa Bay is coming into this game with a lot of momentum. And I think if Washington fails to get pressure on Tom Brady will light them up. And another factor that we have to remember, it's Tom Brady.
That's true.
It's Tom Brady in the postseason. You can never count out Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. And this is the most talent Tom Brady has had around him in years. With Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, a wealth of talent that, you gift wrap a quarterback that any quarterback, not just the greatest of all time, would love to have. And now that he's finally clicking and getting things going in this offense, I think they are very, very dangerous. And momentum is important going into the playoffs. Tampa Bay's coming in red hot, and your Washington football team, I'm not going to lie, they're kind of limping in. They're kind of squeaking in. But hey, they got there. That's all that matters.
That's very true.
However, they don't have much momentum. So in this matchup, I think that Tom Brady and his preparation in the postseason, I think that'll outweigh, whatever game plan that Washington has. I'll take Tampa Bay in this matchup.
All right, and I know I'm a fan, and I hope no one in Washington sees this, but I'm gonna have to stick with my gut here, only because I do know the type of performer Tom Brady is. There's no disregarding he's one of the greatest to do it, greatest of all time. As I said, though, if we get pressure on Tom Brady, he's gonna have a problem. But I mean, you can only get so many interceptions, and you can't get anything on offense. I'm gonna have to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning this game on Sunday. I wish I could, I wish I could really say I had a chance. I hope that they could win. I'm not saying there's a chance. I mean, no team that comes into the playoffs never really has a chance. You're in the playoffs for a reason, and I feel like that's one thing you can't disregard them. So I wouldn't disregard them completely. But I'll say this though: ESPN has Washington counted out. Drew, I don't know if you saw the matchup predictor. 73% Tampa Bay.
I did see the matchup predictor. I think they gave Tampa Bay 74% chance of winning. I'm not gonna lie, I have to side with ESPN on this one. Maybe not to that extreme, but I'm definitely going with Tampa Bay on this one. But hey, and this could happen with all three of these matchups. To wrap it up, any given Sunday, anything could happen. So.
Even Saturday too. That's our game. Our game's on Saturday.
Any given Saturday.
Yeah. So on the left right here, I
think that'll wrap it up. What do you think, Nico?
I think that's good. I think we did a great job today, and we're gonna have the NFC up in here posted probably on Wednesday morning. I'm gonna have me and Drew. I think either later today we'll talk more of the AFC side. Who's gonna be coming in the AFC? Does Josh Allen play hero ball, or does Josh Allen become a quarterback this year? We'll find out next week, in a couple minutes, a couple hours, depending on Drew's schedule. Thanks for the